Astro. Today is Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. The full beaver moon is upon us. I normally don't go in for all that naming the moon each month stuff, but who can say no to a beaver moon? Certainly not me. Hope everybody's been doing well. I certainly have. We've had a few clear nights this week, which I'm quite happy to report. It looks like tonight's going to be clear, tomorrow night's going to be clear, and perhaps one more. So it's just a shame that it's right at full moon because it's, not the greatest time to be doing deep sky imaging, but luckily with good filters, we are still able to make things work. So I would like to welcome back the Great Nebula in Orion after the recent change back to standard time for many of us here living in the United States. It essentially rolled the clock back an hour, so it gets dark around 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in North Carolina. I've got friends that live further up north in New Hampshire, and it's getting dark for them at like 4:30 in the afternoon. Longer nights with, earlier rising of the Pleiades and followed by Orion. So, if you're out at 11 o'clock now, you can see Orion rising in the east, which is just awesome. And I have taken advantage of that. So I actually started imaging Orion for the first time this year. So I was really torn on how I wanted to go about framing this up, because now that I have a 2600 MC Pro, it being an APS-C sensor, when I pair that up with my best telescope in terms of image quality, that'd be the ASCAR SQA55 quintuplet astrograph. That's a mouthful. It gives a pretty large field of view. And in fact, if you want, you can put the Flamin' Horsehead Nebula on one side of the frame and the Orion Nebula on the other side of the frame. However, I don't really like the way that frames up because they both kind of look squished into the corners when you go that route. So I'm not a big fan of that. So what I ended up doing was centering it right on Orion, and it's such a wide field that you end up being able to capture all that incredible HA signal that's all around Orion. And if you've had the pleasure of imaging Orion for, a decently long amount of integration, and it doesn't take much to be clear, then you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And, there's something to be said for HDR compositions when it comes to Orion. We want to, get better and better each year as we shoot, some of the same objects over and over again. And last year I did an HDR composition on Orion, and I was pretty happy with the results. I'd be happy to share them on the Facebook page. In fact, I'll make a note of it now so I remember to share it later. But I want to see what I can do better. We should always challenge ourselves to see if we can do a better job with the same or similar tools. Now, obviously, I've got a better camera now than I had last year, but it's not that big of a difference when you get down to brass tacks as far as, the 2600 versus the 294. I've essentially got a higher megapixel count and a larger frame. But I would think the overall image quality is going to be pretty similar on the same telescope if you're, using similar methods and similar exposure times, et cetera. So, one of the things that you're going to want to do is make sure that you take some very, very short exposures, and you don't have to do it for, 4 hours worth of very short exposures, but I would recommend getting 30 minutes to 1 hour worth of short exposures. And when I say short exposures, I mean legitimately 1 second or shorter. So what you can do is when you pan on over to Orion, go into your preview screen if you're using the ASI Air, or you can preview in Nina as well, whatever tool you are using. and, start with a 10-second exposure and see what the trapezium region looks like. And the trapezium region is, if you look right into the center of the core, you will see like a triangle of stars. And they were first identified by none other than Galileo himself. And those are the three that tend to get blown out by most people who are new to astrophotography. And you can always tell a beginner from an intermediate to advanced user by the Orion shot that they post. And it's not to sound like a imaging snob. I'm not saying that if you blow out your core of Orion that it can't be a beautiful image. Of course it can be. Some of my favorite images don't show the trapezium region. But if you want to challenge yourself and see if you can do something that's a little bit more technically adept than what you did last year, this is a great opportunity to do that. And like I say, start with a 10-second exposure and then work your way up or down, more than likely down. Like for myself, I found actually a 1-second exposure was perfect with the 2600. I have the gain set at 100, which I believe is medium if you go into the ASI or settings. And just a 1-second exposure is able to bring out that trap region quite well. And I know that I can use the various tools that we have within PIXINSIGHT now to composite those images together using masking and various other methods. And we're going to talk today a little bit about some of the newer tools that are available in PIXINSIGHT. And we actually we got together last weekend as a group. So we're always talking in the Discord. And I would like to take a moment and give a shout out to our newest member of the Astrocast family, and that'd be Jason. Jason, thank you so much for joining the group. We're extremely happy to have you. And we got 2 Floridians on board now. So Chris and Jason, both from Florida, they both started talking. I think they're probably going to get together at some point and spend a night or two imaging. But we got together as a group on last Saturday night, and we started talking about SETI Astro, because SETI Astro is just, legendary in terms of PIXINSIGHT plugins, and they have a whole lot of them that you can use. But we were also talking about Cosmic Photons, which is another group of PIXINSIGHT plugins that you can use that are really, really good. And I had 2 Cosmic Photons plugins that I had, and don't even ask me how I came across them. I don't know, it might have been Reddit or Google, who knows. But I didn't realize that they have an entire website where they list the repository address for each and every one of their plugins, very similar to how SETI Astro does. So what I did was I basically went through and I copied every single one of those to a document. And then I went into PIXINSIGHT and opened up my repository updates. And then one by one, I went through and added each and every one of those to my repository. And now I've got quite a few new plugins, processes, scripts within PIXINSIGHT that I'm able to use. And I'd love to share those with you guys so you also can use them. And we can talk about some of the really cool ways that you can use them, including some of the masking tools, which are just phenomenal from Cosmic Photons. Friend of the show, Parrish, actually told me about the color masking tool that they have. And he told me that it was really well done the way they implemented it. And I had pulled in my first night's Orion data, the 3-minute sub exposures that I was doing from the first night. And I had about 5 hours of data. And I went in there, and man, it is really cool how it works, and it's very effective. So masking is something that I've always struggled with in PIXINSIGHT. I know masks. I have used Photoshop for years and years, but I've always had trouble getting masks to work right and to blend in properly in PIXINSIGHT. And I really feel like the Cosmic Photons color masking tools really give me some advantages that I just didn't have before. So what we'll do is I will actually put all of the various tools that we're discussing today in the show notes. So I've already got pretty much all of them listed out in a notepad file. So I'm just going to copy all of those over. So that way you'll be able to bring them into PIXINSIGHT yourself. And I'll just quickly walk you through how you can install them, just in case you've never installed a plugin to your repository within PIXINSIGHT. I would imagine most of you have, but just in case you haven't, what you want to do is open up PIXINSIGHT, and then at the top of the screen, go over to the very last bar up there that says resources. And then you're going to want to scroll down to updates and select manage repositories. And you should see a list of various PIXINSIGHT repositories that are in there by default. And if you have any others installed, they will also be listed there. Like, for example, if you've got Blur Exterminator, Star Exterminator, those types of things, they'll be listed here as well. And what you can do is just hit the add button. Now, unfortunately, you do have to do this one at a time. I really wish PIXINSIGHT would add the availability of putting in multiple URLs at once, because it's a bit of a pain when you've got like a dozen that you want to add in. You got to do them one by one. But just copy and paste each full URL, including the HTTPS part, and paste it in there, and then press OK. And then all you have to do is go back to resources, updates, and click on check for updates. It'll take just a moment to download updated repository information, and it will tell you if it has anything that it needs to download. And then the final step after it has downloaded all that info is to simply restart PIXINSIGHT. So you just need to close it. And after you close it, it'll pop up and say, you have updates pending. Would you like to install them? Click on yes. And then when it's done installing them, you just reopen PIXINSIGHT. And then anything that you have added should then be available either in scripts. Usually, like, for example, if it's a SETI Astro script, it'll be under SETI Astro. And then Cosmic Photons has its own folder under scripts as well. So hopefully that will be helpful to you. Certainly has been for me, because like I say, there are so many different ones available, and all of them really are great in their own ways. One of the other things that I just want to briefly mention in PIXINSIGHT that I've been using a lot more often in terms of masking, it's a simple tool, but it is just incredibly effective, and it is the range selection tool. So if you go into processes and go to all processes, and then just go over to the R's and scroll down until you find range selection, this is a really powerful tool for creating masks that will allow you to basically find the range of luminance that you're looking for. So if you check lightness and then you select an upper and lower limit, especially with something like the Orion Nebula, like, for example, I am wanting to tweak all of that HA signal in the background and really make that sing. But obviously, I don't want to stretch all of the curves at the same time, because if I really bring out all that Haas signal in the background the way that I want to, I'm going to end up completely blowing out the core of Orion and a lot more, honestly, because you really do got to stretch it quite a bit in order to get it where you want it. Whereas if you pull up this range selection tool and then change your lower limit to like 0.44, for example, on the Orion Nebula, you'll quickly realize, wait a minute, I can mask out all of the area in Orion and then click the invert button. And then all of a sudden, all the white area is where the Haas signal is. So all that red in the background that you're wanting to bring out. After you do that, you can just click the square and that will create the mask. And once you have a mask created in PIXINSIGHT, all you need to do is actually drag it right below the name of whatever image file it is that you're working with. So like if you're working with a starless image of Orion, for example, you would drag it right underneath where it says starless in the top left-hand corner of the image file. and that will apply the mask directly to the image, and you'll be able to see the red area. And then you can open up your curves tool. You can even hit preview whenever you have the curves tool open, or GHS if you want to do, generalized hyperbolic stretching. It works there as well. It's a really, really handy tool, and I cannot recommend it enough. It really has allowed me to bring out that signal a lot more. And what you can do using that tool specifically is you can start by masking off pretty much all of the main area around the Great Nebula and Orion and the Running Man Nebula off to the side. Okay. That's very easy to do when you're doing the range selection, because you'll be able to easily see, okay, that's obviously the Orion Nebula and that's obviously the Running Man, because it's two big shapes that are going to be right in the middle of your frame there. But after you've masked those off, create a second mask using the range tool, make some further adjustments, and then make it smaller, and then make it smaller again. And what you want to do is make, 3 to 5 masks until you get into the core where the trap is. And that's that very, very bright region. And if you layer this correctly and you stretch each mask individually as you process the image, what you'll find is you'll be able to match up the lightness, so it doesn't look like one of these was clearly masked off and the other one is sticking out like a sore thumb. You know what I'm talking about? When it looks like, someone's like cut out a piece of paper and there's the Orion Nebula and then everything else around it just looks out of place. You can really blend them together quite well if you introduce some blurring and smoothing with the tool, and then make multiple masks so you can make it smaller and smaller as you approach that core. And that really will open up a lot of different avenues for you to bring out that trapezium region, which is ultimately what your goal is. So I'll make it a challenge for all of the listeners this year. If you're, in the Northern Hemisphere and you're shooting Orion, I challenge you to make an HDR composite of Orion. You don't have to do, 20 different exposure times. A lot of people will say, you need to do 1 second exposures and 5 second exposures. And I've been guilty of this too. Last year when I did mine, I think I did 5 separate exposures. But you really don't need to do that. If you mask properly, you just need to make sure that you've got at least one exposure that shows all of the trapezium region and the more delicate details clearly, which is easy to get with a single 1 second exposure. And then mask and blend that properly in PIXINSIGHT. If you can do that, you will end up with a really, really nice image. I can promise you that. So I challenge you to do it. If you pull it off and you want to let me see it, you can obviously email it to me, email me a link. You can tag me on social media. We're getting more and more interactions over on the Facebook page. The link is in the show notes. Please check that out. One other favor I want to ask you guys, if you don't mind, Spotify is by far our most popular platform. And one of the things that I've noticed is just leaving like a 5-star review or whatever star review you think the Astrocast deserves really does seem to increase engagement and send the algorithm out to the masses. So if you haven't yet, if you wouldn't mind just, tapping on the Astrocast and tapping the 5 stars beside it or whatever you would like, leave us a review for it. And you don't even have to write anything, just literally tap the stars and that'll bring in more listeners to help grow the show. And it's an easy, free way that we can do that, which makes a huge difference to us in the long run. So thank you so much for all of your support as always. It's funny. I was actually outside recording on Monday night. I was recording as I was starting to image Orion, and I was out there with the DJI mics, and I figured I would do like a half under the stars, half in the studio type episode. And it was going well. And I was talking about, I was talking about setting up the telescope and getting everything running and giving some tips on plate solving and using the preview screen effectively in the ASI Air. And as I was doing all that, I heard like something rustling in the bushes on the side of my yard, which pretty much never happens. Like it's always quiet out there, and it scared the living crap out of me. So like on the recording, you can hear me saying like, what the heck was that? And I get really, really quiet. And then I'm like, all right. I'll get back to you guys. And I stopped the recording and I tried to start it back up again a few minutes later, but I was clearly uneasy and it just wasn't working. So I said, okay, we'll scrap the the outdoor show for this week and just do it all in the studio. But it was funny. You probably needed to be there, but it was something else. I also, unfortunately, I ended up breaking my Eva Dry, which is the desiccant device that Parrish recommended to me. They work so good, by the way. I'll put a link to them in the show note. Basically, it's a little box that contains desiccant beads. So if you have a situation like me where you've got a pier outside that you keep your telescope on, and you cover it up with something like a Telegizmo's 365 cover, you still are going to have humidity get underneath that cover and moisture build up, and you don't want that, obviously. So if you put one of these little Eva Dry boxes in there, it has all these desiccant balls that can absorb moisture. And then what happens is once they're, fully saturated, they turn to a green color. And then you remove it and you go inside and you plug it into an outlet and it slowly heats the desiccant balls and dries them back out. And then you can reuse it. So it works really, really great. I absolutely love it. I think they're only like $15. So I highly recommend them. I'll also put a link to those in the show notes. But I broke my first one this week. So I was taking the cover off, the Telegizmo's cover off, because I wanted to, I can't remember what I was doing. I was doing something with the mount, and I just dropped it and it slapped right onto the concrete and cracked right down the middle. They are, cheap plastic, basically, just kind of thin plastic, but they're very inexpensive. So not the end of the world. I just ordered a new one and we will just keep it moving like we always do. Guys, I want to apologize if the first 10 minutes or so of the show this week was overly bassy. So I figured out on my new Shure microphone, there are actually little switches on the back of the microphone, 2 of them, that control frequency response. And I did not have them set to flat frequency, which I really should have, because I do all of my work on the audio in post. I don't need anything but a nice flat sound coming out of the mic, which is what we have now, and it should sound infinitely better than it did for the first 10 minutes. And this is how we will keep it moving forward. So hopefully you won't have to deal with any of that overly bass type sound anymore, especially if you're like me and you got a subwoofer in your vehicle. Just hear it booming every time that I speak. So my apologies if that was the case. So in other news, SV Boney has really been upping their game with hardware this year. So they kind of got famous based on their affordable telescopes. So they originally came out with the scope that I own, the first refractor that I ever had, in fact, which is the SV Boney 80 ED doublet telescope. And they've done very, very well. They've come out with better designs over the years and higher quality optics. And honestly, I think they're right up there with any other of the more budget-friendly refractors as far as quality is concerned. I can also tell you that for things like, accessories in your telescope, you really can't beat them. Like for the telescope filter drawer, I know I've raved about that a million times, but it's so much better than the ZW01, and it comes with an extra drawer, which the ZW01 just does not. I was actually looking on Amazon. They had a 2-pack of those going for $78. So you get 2 of the filter drawers and 4 total, 2 of the filter drawers and 4 total, slide-in filter drawers that you would get. So a 2-pack for $78. That's cheaper than I think a single ZW01. I believe they're like $80 a pop. But they've been releasing some other things as well. Notably, they came out with a power adapter not too long ago. So if you've got a situation like a lot of us do, where maybe you're running dew heaters over USB power, or you've just run out of USB ports on your device, whether it be, an ASI Air or another similar device, and you need more USB power, or you just want to clean up your cables because you've got way too much cable mess. They actually have a USB hub now, and it's really affordable. It's only $60. It works great. It's got Type-C. It's got two USB 3.1 ports on it and a 2.0 port as well. It's a powered USB hub, which is quite nice. Multiple mounting points. It's got M4 and 1/4 inch. So basically your major mounting points that you would have on any scope. And then it also has 4 DC power outputs. 6 DC power outputs. So you're talking about a device that's, significantly more affordable than any of the other power management solution things that you would find on the market from some of the other companies that are out there for $60. In fact, the one that I'm looking at right now is on sale 10% off. So I'll link to that in the show notes if you want to check it out. So SVBony actually sells most of their stuff on Amazon. It's one of the few things I can recommend buying on Amazon. And this in particular, let's see, 1, 2, 3, I'm counting 4, 5, 6 USB ports and 6 DC out power ports. That's just unheard of for $60. So yeah, if you're looking for something to take care of 5 volt and 12 volt power, look no further than the SVBony USB hub. Now, I will also say, though, the reason that I brought it up is they apparently are working on an autofocuser. So I saw someone in the group chat earlier in the Patreon actually post a photo of the SVBony EAF, and that could be very interesting indeed. So I'm looking at a photo of this right now. It looks to be, it's kind of hard to judge scale from a photo because it's got just a white background, but it does look very nice. So it has a clutch switch on it, which is very, very nice. I assume that allows you to turn off the clutch so you can unlock it and manually turn your zoom, which can be just like hugely advantageous in so many situations. I'm thinking specifically of all the times with my Rokinon 135 where I had to loosen up everything to make an adjustment. If I could have just unlocked the clutch, I could have manually done it myself. It connects via Type-C, and it also has a temperature probe plug, so you can, refocus whenever the temperature changes, which is what most folks do. It looks like it's in development now, and they're still taking suggestions for features. It looks like somebody just posted it on Facebook based on this photo. But yeah, that's very exciting. I keep wondering if SVBony is going to come out with a mount. That's what I'm wanting to know, because I feel like they could really blow the doors off of the equatorial mount game, like especially harmonic drives. Couldn't you just see SVBony coming out with like a 40-pound mount for like $800? Call me crazy, but I could just see them doing something like that, just based on their history and coming in at, such a more affordable rate than so many of these other companies do. And, I would certainly be first in line to try one of them, because everything that I've gotten from them so far has been really top-notch quality. Like, I have no complaints whatsoever. My doublet telescope was great. I added the reducer on, even better. The filter drawer is awesome. The dew heaters that I've gotten have been great. The dual narrowband filter that I got is great. They really don't make bad stuff, and it's all affordable. So I'm all about it. I think it's great competition for the bigger, more expensive companies that are out there. And don't get me wrong, I'm glad those are around too, but I sure would love to see if SVBony would come out with a mount. I'm sure it's in development, or they're at least thinking about it. They certainly seem to be expanding in all directions. They definitely have, planetary and deep sky cameras. And guys, this would probably be a good time to mention, Like, don't lock yourself into just ZWO. I know I'm one to talk because I use an AM3 and a 2600 MC Pro. I love ZWO. Like, don't get me wrong. ASI, they make great stuff. I love the ASI Air. I love how convenient it is. And it is great quality stuff, but there's no reason anymore in this day and age to stay with ZWO solely based on the fact that the ASI Air, compatibility, because mini PCs can be purchased for under $200 now on Amazon. And I don't need to tell you that an ASI Air costs significantly more than $200 now. So, I mean, I was looking on Amazon earlier today, and there was a Ryzen 5 mini PC with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of M.2 storage, which is, the fastest kind of storage there is, for $175. I mean, that's half the price of an ASI Air Plus. And it had 5 USB ports instead of 4. It also had a Type-C port. I mean, that's a win-win. If you combine something like that with one of these SV Boney power boxes, it opens up just a whole world of possibilities to you in terms of what you can do with your imaging setup. Because if you install Nina and you have a situation where you've got like a peer, or, you don't have to have a peer by any means, like especially with a mini PC, they're not that much bigger than an ASI Air. I mean, you could figure it out. Trust me. But I'm telling you, like, once you really figure out Nina or K-Stars or whatever you decide to use, you might find that you don't want to go back to the ASI Air, especially when you can like sit at your desktop computer and control your entire rig from like a screen that was actually made to be used on a desktop computer. Like, I know that there are workarounds. We've talked about them on this show. To be able to use the ASI Air on Windows with, BlueStacks or any other combination of things. But to natively run a remote Windows PC, it's just a little bit different. And especially if you're working remotely, like I was talking to Parrish, for example, he's got a rig down at the remote observatory down in Texas. And it's just, the name of it always escapes me. And it has like the simplest name ever, Starfront Observatories. I don't know why I can never remember that. But anyway, he's got a rig down there. And what he did is really smart. So he actually invested a little bit more in a more powerful mini PC that runs his rig down there. And he has that computer do all of the stacking for him after the images come in, and then sends the finished FITS files home to his machine where he can process them in PIXINSIGHT. So, I mean, why generate all that heat and use all that energy at his house when he's paying for that spot and energy use, over at Starfront? You know what I mean? So there are a lot of different options that are available out there for very affordable prices. I think a lot of times people think to themselves, like, I'm going to stay with the ASI Air because, they're affordable, they're very small, and they're easy to use. Okay, those are great arguments, and I'm not going to disagree with you on any of them. But mini PCs are more affordable now, depending on what you want to get. Obviously, you can spend significantly more than what you would spend on an ASI Air Plus if you wanted to go that route. But like I said, our Ryzen 5 with 16 gigs of RAM and a 512 gigabyte SSD for $175. That can handle any observatory software that you can throw at it and then some. And I'm sure it can handle stacking too. So there, that takes out the price, argument. That's out the window because that's $150 cheaper than an ASI Air Plus, right? Okay, they're small. Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. They're definitely small. They're the size of a Raspberry Pi. They're all SoC computers. But these mini PCs aren't that much bigger. I mean, if you've ever seen like a Mac Mini, they're about the same size as that. So you're talking about, a really small square, usually like 4 inches by 4 inches by 2 inches. So depending on which one you get, obviously some are smaller, but most of them have a footprint that's, no bigger than a 2-inch, well, maybe a little bit bigger than a 2-inch filter case, but not much bigger than, I'm trying to look for something comparable around here. I can't say a mini Simpsons TV. That wouldn't work. Not much bigger than your cell phone. I think that would be a fair argument to make if you've got like an iPhone Pro Max. Anyway, they're very, very affordable. They're very, very small, and they're very, very powerful. They usually have more ports on them than you will get with an ASI Air. And if you combine them with something like the SVBony Power Box, then man, you have yourself a winning combination that can run any software that you want to throw at it. And then that opens up that whole world of possibilities to you in terms of what camera you want to use, what autofocuser you want to use, heck, what mount you want to use. Do you want to use DSLRs or mirrorless cameras? I remember seeing someone on the ZWO Facebook page the other day. They were complaining because they couldn't get a straight answer from someone if I think it was the R6 Mark II. They couldn't get an answer as to whether or not it was compatible. And obviously, I don't blame ZWO. Like, they don't have all those cameras. They can't possibly test every single one of them. But I mean, it's still a downside, right? If you can't test it, then you don't know. So who wants to go out and spend all this money on something not knowing if it's going to work with your camera or not? Whereas, you can pretty much guarantee that Nina is going to work with anything that you can throw at it. So just something to consider, if you're thinking about setting up a semi-permanent rig, or maybe like something that you take out of your garage and put back in every night in the same spot, consider setting up a mini PC, because I know that's certainly what's going to be going down to Starfront observatories in the springtime when I make that trip. And I would encourage you to do it as well, because as awesome as that SVBony EAF is going to be, I can almost guarantee you it's not going to work with the ASI Air, and that's a real shame. It's time for
Social Media Stardust.
All right, guys, you heard it here first. We have a new segment on the Astrocast. We're going to be doing this once a week, so it's going to be every week. I'm planning on doing this, and I got the idea after last week's episode when we talked about Raj and the great fiasco that was him, gallivanting about and talking about how incredible his astrophotography is and how he had finished astrophotography, et cetera, et cetera. I thought to myself, what is a way that we could do something similar that will help engage the astrophotography community a bit more, but maybe highlight some more positive things instead of such negativity like we saw out of him. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of positivity that came out of the memes and all the hilarity that ensued after he did what he did. But that's neither here nor there for this process. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to basically, when I'm flipping through social media, whether it be Facebook or Reddit or Instagram, anywhere, basically, occasionally I will see a piece of art or a deep sky object or a nebula, whatever it is that really catches my eye. And I want to make that basically the highlighted object for the week. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just one thing. It could be three things. If I happen to see three really awesome photos from three different people, then we'll highlight all three of them. And the plan is to share this information, obviously, because I would love for when we, talk about these people's work, for them to hear me talking about it on the show. So if you happen to know any of the creators who do make this work, please feel free to tag them and let them know that we're discussing their artwork on the Astrocast, so they can hear about it. And what we'll do at the end of a 1-year period, I'm going to go back and we will basically take a vote from the community, and we will tally up and see who gets the most votes on having the best image amongst all of the images that we collect over the year through the Social Media Stardust campaign. And whichever one gets, the best response we'll win a prize at the end of the year. So we're going to start with just $100 prize, and then I'll see if we can get some of the sponsors to throw in some additional incentives as well. And I'm sure I can come up with a cool trophy. So I'm thinking something like the Captain Cumulus Cup or something along those lines. And I would love for everyone out there, all of you listening, to participate as well. I obviously don't see everything on the internet. So if you see something that really catches your eyes from one of the, astrophotography for beginners communities or learning astrophotography, or, any of the, I guess you would say, like non-APOD level, because the idea here is not everyone is going to win an APOD, and that's okay. I would love to still highlight people's work that clearly put a lot of effort and thought into their work, and, make them feel special for a moment. So that's kind of the idea. So if you see something like that and you feel that it is worth mentioning, please feel free to tag me. You can just use hashtag the Astrocast and hashtag social media Stardust. I will be doing a search for those every week. You can obviously post on the Astrocast Facebook page. You can share anything there that you find. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. This isn't limited to like just Patreon members or anything like that. Anybody can get in on this. If you've got an image that you really like that you took yourself and you want me to check it out, by all means, tag me in it. And if, it catches my eye, then I'll include you in the list. And there's no minimum number of photos each week. So if there's a dozen awesome photos one week, I will call out each and every single one of them. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it'll be successful. I think it will. So the only thing that I still have to figure out that's a little bit tricky is most of the private groups for astrophotography on Facebook, they don't let pages join them. So like the Astrocast page on Facebook can't join astrophotography for beginners, for example, because what would be ideal is if I could, if I saw an image on there that I really liked, I could share it to the Astrocast page and say, this is this week's, social media Stardust winner or something along those lines. But I'll figure out the details of that later. For now, I can see everybody's name and where they posted it and those sorts of things. And that's good enough for us to get by and reach out to someone if and when they win. So all that being said, we'll keep it pretty simple for the first week. So we'll just stick with one photo, though it is a combination of photos in that it's a panorama. And man, oh man, this one caught my eye last night, actually, when I was sitting outside under the stars. I was kind of flipping through and happened to see it. And man, oh man, is it a really, really well done landscape Milky Way photo, which are always some of my personal favorites. So it definitely appears to be from the southern hemisphere based on the fact that I can see the large and small Magellanic Cloud off to the east there. Man, just absolutely beautiful and just really, really makes me want to go down and see some southern skies. But it's going to be on the Astrophotography for Beginners page. One Christy Toms from Murnanes Bay, Great Ocean Road is the name of the post. It's a panoramic photo. It's got water of the bay, and then it looks like some kind of mountains in the foreground. It's extremely beautiful, and I will, one way or another, I will post it to the Astrocast page and give the artist credit, obviously. But I don't know this person. I don't know anything about them. I did look at their profile. They're definitely a real person. They appear to be from Australia. They're into Milky Way panoramas. I really, really dig it. It's an amazing picture. They showed great technique, really, really great saturation control. They didn't overdo it. And they could have, believe me, because when you look at this image, you can tell that there is enough detail from the darkness of the sky there, or if they wanted to, they could have really pushed this, but they didn't. They showed some restraint and they let the beauty of the Milky Way sing. And I think that is ultimately what makes it a really, really beautiful image. So congratulations to you, Christy. I hope that you hear this. Hopefully somebody who knows you will tell you about this, and no action needed on your part. If you win at the end of the year, I will let you know and reach out to you. So thanks so much, and keep up the great work down there in Australia, man. Amazing shot that you got. So yeah, big congratulations to Christy Toms on being our first winner for Social Media Stardust. And hopefully when we tabulate them all up at the end of the year, we'll have quite a few and honorable mentions and all that kind of good stuff. And I really hope that the community will get involved in this and send in shots that they love. Send in your own shots. Believe me, you don't have to not just nominate other people. By all means, if you're proud of a shot, send it to me and I will absolutely consider it for the week. So other stuff I have been working on that I thought would be worthy of mention. One kind of fun little project that I've been working on lately. I've always been a big fan of DIY stuff, and that extends to computing, obviously, and to a lesser but still very much interested degree, robotics. So I've bought many Arduino kits over the years and haven't really utilized them to their full potential, I guess you could say. And I was thinking about some of the stuff that I had read about collimating my C8. And I've got an area in my house that has a long hallway that the kitchen looks down. And I thought to myself, do I have anything with a single LED on it where I could simulate one star and then set my telescope up all the way back in the kitchen, point it all the way down at that quote unquote star. And that way I would be able to easily collimate from, a horizontal surface inside the house. And I realized I didn't have anything with just a single LED in it. And then I started thinking to myself, man, if I got an Arduino kit, it would have a bunch of LEDs in it. And then I was also thinking to myself, one of the benefits would be that I could potentially use, if I got the right kit, like a servo motor to make a motorized flat panel. So this is something that's been a big topic of discussion in the Patreon members only Discord group chat many times, flat panels in general. New member Jason actually mentioned to me Wander Astro. They make a more affordable flat panel. And it's really nice. I might end up ordering one of those. But I definitely could see myself, trying to make my own as well. I mean, why not, right? All you really need is a servo motor to lift something up and down, and then, a few LED lights to give you an evenly lit surface behind it. So I'm going to do that. I don't know how successful I'll be. I do remember the last time I got an Arduino kit, one of the very first little lessons was with an LED, a single LED, getting it to turn on and off with a button press, if I remember correctly. And lucky for me, that's what I want to do for collimating the C8 is just turning the LED on. So that's going to be a step one. So I'm going to work on kind of my, I guess you would call it a collimation LED, which is basically just going to be an on-off switch for a single LED that I don't know if I can run it off battery power. I suppose we will see. It does come with a battery in the kit, and a single LED takes up very, very little power. So I'm thinking that will probably be the best option. And then once I figure all that out, then I can look into possibly starting to make that actual LED flat panel that is automated and motorized. I think step one would just be making a decent flat panel myself. So, getting like a ring that fits properly around my scope, and then, plexiglass or whatever I decide to use, like an opaque white plastic surface, and then the LEDs behind it. Once I verify that I can create good flats from that, then I could work on possibly motorizing it. But I don't think it would be that hard. And I know that you can purchase motorized flat panels for, $200 to $300. But if I could make one myself for even a little bit less, I would much, much, much rather do that. So we will see. Time will tell. The other thing that I thought I would mention to you guys is I know we've talked about MPB on the show before. They are a used gear company that specializes in camera lenses and cameras. And there are a couple of different companies out there that do similar things, like KEH comes to mind. They're pretty much, well, they're very, very similar to MPB, but I've used both of them and had good luck with both of them. But I have a portrait shoot that I have to do in the very near future with my father-in-law. And I ordered an 85 millimeter Canon EF lens for, I think it was $220 in total off of MPB about a week ago. It ended up coming, and mind you, there's a few different categories when you're purchasing gear from them. They have like bargain or just for parts, and then they have poor quality, fair, good, excellent, and like new. Mine was of the good variety. So I could have gone a whole nother 2 steps up to, excellent or like new. And I think it would have been like $294 for one of the like new ones. And, for me, as long as it works perfectly fine, I don't care if it's a little scuffed up or what have you. So I got the good one. It comes, and man, if you would have told me that this lens was brand spanking new, I would have believed it. It came in the original Canon box that had no dents, scratches, anything on it. And then when I pulled the actual lens out of said box, it looks completely brand new. Like I can't imagine a lens looking any better than this. So, like new versus good, I don't know. Obviously, your mileage may vary. And, I'm not saying every lens that they sell is going to be like brand new. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. But I am telling you that I've had a lot of success with them. This isn't the first time I've purchased gear from them. And it definitely won't be the last time after that. So if you do need a lens, if you're looking for something, definitely do yourself a favor and check out MPB, just because they are, very affordable, and, camera gear, lenses in particular, man, they hold their value really, really well. So most of the time, if you buy a nice lens and take good care of it, you should be able to get most of your money back if and when you ever need to go and resell that lens. So just keep that in mind when you move forward. Another huge bonus of me, the reason I got the EF version when I have RF cameras is because the EF version was $220, whereas the RF version is like $600. And I really only have one project that I'm dying to use this lens for, which is like a family portrait situation. But as a huge added benefit, now I've got an EF 85 millimeter lens that I can adapt to my ZWO camera, because the focus within EF glass is all manual. So there's no focus by wire like you have in all of your RF lenses, which you cannot adapt to ZWO cameras. And because of that, we're able to, adapt it to a ZWO camera. I was looking in Stellarium, and it's going to really frame up Barnard's loop extremely well. So you can get Barnard's loop, Orion, the Horsehead and Flame, and you could even get the Witch Head Nebula in that same frame if you take your time. And obviously, we were talking about this on Saturday night in the group chat. You would most likely have to do an HDR composition if you wanted to, not completely blow Orion out and get the Witch's Head Nebula in there. But hey, I got all winter to mess around with it and find out. So I'll let you know when that time does come, how things go when I get there. I haven't decided yet if we're going to have like a APOD kind of name for the social media Stardust. I don't even know if I'll keep that as the name. I just thought it sounded cool. Maybe we'll go APOW, Astropod or Astrocast picture of the week. The APOW. Would the APOW be good? If you've got ideas for names, please email them to me. Send them to rue@theastrocast.com. And if I pick it, I will let you know, and I will give you the honor of naming you on the show as the chooser of the name. And the jingle took me all of 10 minutes to make, so not a very difficult thing if I have to make another one. So by all means, if you think you've got a better name, please let me know. But for now, we'll stick with that, and we'll see how it goes. So, all right, let us talk about some recommendations. And boy, oh boy, do I got one for you this week. So I don't read a ton of nonfiction. I very much enjoy reading fiction, but I do occasionally read nonfiction, like most of you probably. Like, I enjoy a good Brian Cox or Neil deGrasse Tyson book. I love reading about theories and history and these sorts of things. And I also, like a lot of you probably do, enjoy reading about the future and what may come one day. And whilst flipping through Audible, I happened to catch a title which I had seen before, but I recently had, I think I heard a review for it on NPR or something along those lines, and it caught my eye, and I just said, what the heck, I'm going to get it. I think I had 2 credits sitting in Audible anyway, and I just decided to kind of roll the dice on it. I am super glad that I did, because this book has been one of, if not the best nonfiction titles I've ever quote unquote read or listened to. So first of all, it's a short read. So if you do pick it up as a physical book and want to read it or read it on your Kindle, it shouldn't take you that long. It's only a 6-hour listen on Audible, which is very brief by book standards. You know, most novels are, anywhere from 12 to 24 hours or more. So it is a brief listen, but that's not to say it is not a deep and engaging listen, because it very, very much is that. The title of the book is called "If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies: Why Superhuman AI Would Kill Us All," by, forgive me if I botch the name, Eliezer Yudkowsky and Nate Soares. This book is incredible. And not only is it incredible, but it's actually quite incredibly terrifying, because these two lay out in very, very plausible, realistic terms why we are absolutely barreling towards a future where we create a superhuman AI that will, without a doubt, destroy us all. And if you don't believe me, just listen to the book and try to make a counter argument. And if you can think of one, they've probably already thought of it. The premise is that, essentially, without spoiling anything, the way AIs work now, which I kind of knew, but I didn't really know until I listened to this book. I knew that no one really understood how AIs work, but I didn't really fundamentally understand why no one understood. The reason is AIs are not built. We don't build AIs. We don't code AIs. We actually grow AIs through a process known as gradient descent. And I won't get too in depth, but they do give a single scenario that is one of the most common and honestly probably one of the most positive possible outcomes with building an AI. And it does not end up well for us. So highly recommend listening to this one. It's, if nothing else, it's incredibly entertaining, and it will leave you terrified. The real crazy thing is, since we grow these things and don't build them, we really don't have any way of knowing how close or far away we are to creating superhuman intelligence. We don't know. We don't know what we don't know. What's going to happen is essentially one day we will cross that threshold, and we likely won't even know when that is. And when that happens, it's already too late. So listen to the book. Let me know what you thought of it. Feel free to shoot me a email or leave a message on Facebook Astrocast page. I would certainly love to hear from you, but it's really, really good, y'all. It's a great book, and I can't recommend it enough. It's scary stuff, and I totally agree with pretty much the entire argument that the author makes. I've had a lot of mixed feelings about AI for the last few years, and this is helping solidify them to be less mixed. So the other fun recommendation that I can give you, not that listening to that book isn't fun, because it is a very entertaining listen, but I know I mentioned Silk Song before. Let me just one more time say, man, oh man, that is my game of the year without a doubt. I am well over 100 hours into it now. I'm in the final act of the game. I won't give any spoilers, but that's not something that becomes super obvious to you unless you've played it. It's, if you enjoy like Super Metroid or Metroidvania is what they call it, type games, there has never been a better Metroidvania made than Silk Song. So do yourself a favor. If you haven't yet, give it a play. I would highly encourage anyone who hasn't played it yet to go back and play Hollow Knight first. You can beat that game in probably 20 hours, and it's a phenomenal game in its own right. It's very, very good. Silk Song is better, no doubt about it, but Hollow Knight will kind of give you the prequel info that you need to truly appreciate Silk Song, and it will get you used to the incredibly difficult combat, because man, oh man, it is a tough game that you will die a million times in, but it's just so satisfying when you finally deliver that killing blow to the boss that has, beat you 50 times in a row. So that is going to do it for this week, guys. I wanted to get the episode out on Tuesday, but because of all the craziness that happened on Monday night, here we are on Wednesday. So sorry about that, but I appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back next week with another new episode. Make sure to check the comments section, or not the comments section. I'm sorry. Check the show notes. I will have a link to the Facebook page. And if you find anything that you want to enter for next week's contest or any of them beyond that, please make sure to drop a line. Also, before I forget, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Dark Dragons Astronomy. If you ever need any help with your observatory's roll-off roof system, those are the guys that you want to talk to. They do a phenomenal job, and they can help you with anything from a small shed to a university-sized building. They are the guys. So big shout out to Rick and Jeff over at Dark Dragons Astro. They do a great job. They recently invited me into their Discord, so I just wanted to say hello to them and thank them for that as well. Obviously, thanks to all of the Patreon members. If you would like to join us, the Patreon has been doing phenomenal lately. Everybody is doing so great in our Discord group. I say it all the time, and I'm not the only one who says it. You can ask anyone in our group. We have the best community on the internet in that Discord chat for astronomy and astrophotography. So if you're looking for a great group of people to hang out with and talk with, go to patreon.com/the Astrocast and join for as little as $5 a month. I promise it'll be the best $5 that you ever spent, and you'll just help support the show and keep things running around here ad-free, which is how we like to do it. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. I thank you so much for tuning in to the Astrocast. As always, I am your host, Rue, and until next time, as always, clear sky.